Hi, this is Todd McDonald with Valid8 Financial. We offer a software platform to conduct more efficient and thorough financial forensic investigations. I'm going to provide a really brief overview and background on our product and platform, and then give you a brief demo to show you how it works. At a high level, what do? We allow professionals the ability to convert raw bank statements, PDF statements, whether it be checking, savings, credit cards, or brokerage accounts, to a fully reconciled transaction database, along with analytical tools to really gain insight into what the data shows and what does it all mean. We're a software as a service provider, accessed through your browser and hosted on Amazon Web Services. We sell to lawyers, trustees, receivers, and forensic and tax accountants with a variety of uses. They can be financial investigations, where you're trying to understand, get insight and clarity in terms of what happened to the money. For bankruptcies, it could be a investigation into fraudulent transfers and preference payments where the accounting books and records may not be reliable. For forensic investigations or tax matters, being able to generate financial statements recreated directly from bank statements, or identification of potential assets to recover, or missing or unknown accounts on a particular matter. Our background started, the idea for Valid8 really came out of a large Ponzi scheme case in the Seattle area that I worked on as the primary forensic investigator. It was a $150 million Ponzi scheme investigation that was perpetuated from this guy here. This is Darren Berg. He had a series of real estate investment funds where it ended up being about half the money that was supposed to go into real estate investments went there. The rest was used for other personal expenses. Our problem from a bankruptcy trustee standpoint was the financial records per the accounting records were manipulated beyond repair. And we needed to understand what had happened before we could figure out what we were going to do about it to maximize recovery for creditors. We needed to recreate financials directly from bank statements because every other piece of information that was out there through the accounting records was not reliable. And there were a number of players in this. Bankruptcy trustee, who I was working for, Department of Justice and the FBI for criminal prosecution, and then defense counsel as well in terms of understanding what the facts were. The process for us was very manual, and given that there were multiple agencies and players, there was also a duplicative effort that involved dozens of accounts and legal entities over just a little over 10 years. And ultimately, the deliverable was a massive spreadsheet that took a very, very long time to generate for a number of reasons. But through by seeing that pain intimately, we had the idea for putting some software and technology to allow for faster, more effective financial investigations. What do we do? We basically take bank statements directly from PDF form, allow those to be uploaded to our platform, immediately extract the transactions, reconcile them, make sure that the data is bomb-proof, and quickly allow professional teams to investigate and report processes that would take, and kind of administrative manual efforts that would take weeks or months or even years, can really be compressed down significantly. I'm going to show you in just a few minutes the platform, but 6 things to kind of focus in on. Painless evidence collection, the ability to quickly pull out out large volumes of transactions from statements or direct connections to banks, if you've got login credentials, the ability to see if data is missing, transactions or statements. To the penny accuracy, we assume that there's going to be an expert witness on the stand going through cross-examination, and we make sure that the data is very accurate, so that when an expert makes a conclusion or reaches a conclusion, that it is well supported and grounded by bomb-proof data. We allow for categorization and tagging so that you can effectively create a forensic general ledger summarizing what had happened. We allow for matching between transfers between accounts, a historically very, very manual process to identify when there's outbound money from one account, being able to match that up to inbound funds on another account. And then at any point, if someone wants to look at the data in Excel, quick one-click spreadsheet output. At the end of the day, we're trying to deliver two pretty significant benefits. One is the combination of speed to intelligence, so that whoever has a better insight into the data can quickly act upon it. And we're ensuring that we have very high quality data for reaching conclusions and going on to next steps. And also the idea of being able to simply tell stories, let the data tell the story of what had happened through visualization and quick drill downs directly to the source document of evidence on a particular transaction. In summary, the current process for an investigation, the majority of time is spent doing data prep before you can get into the analysis and the conclusions. You have to spend an inordinate amount of time doing administrative data extraction, reconciliation, identifying missing data, going and getting that. We really tried to, at the end of the day, just collapse that amount of time dramatically so that you can get right into the analysis and conclusions and tactical or strategic next steps. I'm going to give you a brief product demo just to show you what the platform looks like and how it works. So I'm logged in through a browser here, and I've got an example project up. This is just called Acme Project. And we've got a few different screens. We've tried to simplify this as much as possible. The first screen that you've got is a project overview. You've got an account maintenance screen where you can input the bank accounts that you're pulling data in for. Statements is where you upload statements, assign them to an account, extract the transactions out, and then make sure that the data is reconciled. Transactions is once you've pulled the transactions out of the bank statements. This is where you can quickly analyze and categorize transactions. Transfers, we've got a transfer matching algorithm that allows you to quickly identify matches, flows of funds between accounts. And cash flow visualization shows you how money moves from sources of funds into accounts and out to uses of funds. I'm going to go back through each of those screens, but that's just a high-level overview of how the platform looks and works. Project overview. First thing you've got is a summary of all of the data that is contained within your particular project. So for this project, we've got 328 statements. They're all fully reconciled. And those 328 statements are broken out by account on a time sequence that shows you what you have and also what you're missing. So we've got, for each account, we've got the legal entity, the name of the account, the institution, the account number, and the account type. We've got a breakout of the 328 statements summarized above. Each one of those 328 statements is broken out and represented by a block on this time sequence. So we're looking from, in this case, 2010 to 2017 is the statements that we've pulled in, and you can see what we have and what the status of a particular statement is, and also what we're missing. So for this particular account, we're missing some data in December of 2011. For this particular checking account, we're missing some data back in the 2015, 16, and January 2017. So this just quickly allows you to understand exactly where you're at with the project at any given time. Once you've created a project and named it, that takes about a minute. Just create a project name. The next step is to go through and list out all statements, or all bank accounts that you have or expect to have. Add another account by dropping in the company name or the legal entity, the institution, the account number, description, and the type of account. And then just hit update account. So step 1, create a project name. Step 2, list out all of the accounts that you have or expect to have. Step 3 is really where you get into some of the meat of Valid8, which is where you start uploading statements, assigning them, extracting the transactions, and reconciling them. Uploading, you can upload up to 100 statements at a time. I'm going to grab some example statements here. So I'm going to grab, I don't know, about a dozen accounts here. And that moves very fast. So those statements are already uploaded into the Valid8 platform. Ended up being 15 in total. Next step is to assign those to one of our accounts. So I'm going to select all, assign them to one of our accounts. Those are now assigned and ready to extract. Next step is to select all and hit the extract data button. I'm not going to do that right now, but once you hit this extract data button, that goes off to our OCR engine and takes about 24 hours. Often it's less than that, but in general about 24 hours to extract the transactions out. Once you get them back, you have a schedule of all statements that have been uploaded and extracted. Each statement that gets pulled into Valid8 goes through a reconciliation process. I'm going to pull up an example statement. So you can click on copy of the statement, and typical in this case credit card statement. We've got, and you can see that this is not a native PDF. This is something that was pulled out of an accountant's filing cabinet. We're able to process those as well as native PDFs. On the reconciliation page, so this is for a statement starting on January 22nd, 2016, ending on February 19th, 2016. We pull out of the statement the beginning date, the ending date, the beginning balance, the ending balance. In this case, these are negative because it's a credit card, along with all of the transactions within the statement. We ensure that the statement is accurate by taking the beginning balance plus the activity and making sure that that equals the ending balance. In this case, we've got $0 variance. And we also run a test to make sure that there is no other statements for this account that has a date overlap. You're wanting to avoid missing data, duplicate data, and erroneous data. We've got checks for each of those things along the way. So at this point, this statement is reconciled. We've verified that the activity plus the beginning balance equals the ending balance, and we do that statement by statement. Once you've got reconciled data, you can start getting into the transactions. For this particular data set, out of those 328 statements, we've pulled in 10,772 transactions, totaling $36 million of inflows, $34 million of outflows. You can start looking at, for specific transaction sizes or date ranges. You can also do keyword searches here. So if I want to look at Starbucks on this data set, I can just type in the keyword I'm looking for, and I can see that there's 86 transactions totaling $1,400. I can also categorize those transactions. So for this particular data set, I've already created a category called coffee here, and I've assigned these transactions to that category of coffee, or that account of coffee. The way I did that was basically just select all and apply a category that I've already created of coffee, and save those transactions. So that is how categorization works. And I'll show you where that's meaningful in a minute. Transfers is where we're able to run our transfer match algorithm that identifies flows of funds between accounts and matches them. So when you see, well, let's just take the first example here. So we've got a payment for our first matched transaction ID for on 3/28. There was an outbound of $129 from a Bank of America checking account, and that was received by a credit card account a couple of days later on 3/31. So our match engine is basically triggered just by hitting the Find New Matches button, and then we go look for the same dollar amount on or about the same day, offsetting. When we find those, those are approved matches. And I'll show you how that shows up in visualization. This is a process that can take a very, very long time manually. It takes just a few minutes within our platform. Cash flow basically gives you a visual representation of how funds moved within the data set. Sources of funds, this is left to right storytelling. Sources of funds, these are categories just like how we assign those Starbucks transactions to coffee. We've got categories of sources of funds or deposits on the left. Those feed over to the right into accounts, these dark blue nodes in the middle, and then out to uses of funds on the right-hand side. At any point, if you want to dive into a particular node or arrow, you can do so. So if I click on hotel, you'll see an update on the total volume of transactions and dollar amounts here. So I'm going to click on a hotel. You can see that there's 469 transactions that have been categorized to hotel, $184,000 of outbound funds. Those 469 transactions are listed below. And at any point, if you want to look at a given transaction, we can take you right back to the source data. So that was a Holiday Inn expense. And you can see that right here for $287.36. Any transaction you can do that for. The transfers between accounts that we identified back on the transfer match engine are represented by these elliptical arrows between accounts. So if I click on this arrow between this savings account and this checking account, I can see that there were 16 transfers totaling $5.4 million. Those, again, are listed down below here. Transfers are a little bit interesting because there's, for each flow of funds, there's two line items, one on each statement, the outbound account and the inbound account. So for these 16 transfers, you'll actually see 32 line items listed out below here. At any point, if you want to get at the data directly into Excel, you can hit Export to Excel, and you will get an email with a detailed export of all of the transactions with a number of pre-formatted pivot tables and ways of analyzing the data directly in Excel. But that is basically the process. Create a project, list out the accounts that you have or expect to have, go into statements, upload statements, assign them to an account, kick off the extraction process, verify that they're reconciled, start categorizing transactions within the Transactions tab, identify transfers by using our transfer match algorithm, and then you can get right into the analysis, whether that's in spreadsheet form or whether it's using the database visualization on the cash flow screen. Any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I really appreciate your time and look forward to the opportunity of working together. Thanks.